Hi there, Buick owners. Today in your 2020 Buick Envision, we're going to be taking a look at and showing you how to install Demco's Air Force One supplemental braking system. This is a fully integrated system that is permanently installed into your vehicle, so that way your components here will stay here the entire time, whether you're flat towing it or driving it around normally. This is the best option, in my opinion, for a braking system if you have air brakes on your motorhome. My second pick would be Demco's Stay and Play Duo if you have hydraulic brakes on your motorhome. And the reason why I like these two braking systems the best is because they are proportional systems, which ensures that you get good braking on your vehicle that's closely mimicking the braking of your motorhome, so that way we're not stopping too hard or too abrupt here or too light back here. We can finely tune that so that way we get nice natural stopping power. And what that's going to do for you is give you the best driving experience when hauling your vehicle behind your motorhome. It's also going to ensure that you don't prematurely wear out any of the components here on our motorhome, because some braking systems that are purely inertia based, that aren't truly proportional and work just off of the inertia of the vehicle's movement, you can get false activation with those, which could cause premature wear to your brake pads and potentially some of your suspension components and other items on your vehicle. So that's why I really like this one, as well as Stay and Play Duo. They're both phenomenal systems. I also like that once you have them installed, the only thing you really have to do at the front is just make your connections for your breakaway switch and your electrical connection for all your lightings and things like that. The Air Force One here does have one additional connection, but again, it's just another tether that you hook up at the front, because we have an Airline that runs between connection at the front of the vehicle here and our motorhome, so we can get that direct proportional air pressure from the motorhome to drive the system here on the vehicle. So this is the main box here that kind of makes all the magic happen, but let's go take a look at the cylinder located on the pedal, because once this activates, that cylinder is what's going to actually be applying the pedal. So here we can see our cylinder on the pedal. It clamps around it, it's tethered to our firewall there, so that way when it activates and gets pressurized, it draws the pedal towards the firewall, applying our brakes. The Air Force One here does have a reed switch that's made into it as well, so that way we're going to get real-time information of when our system is activating, and that's really useful, because if you hit the brakes in your motorhome and you don't get that feedback, you know something's going on with your system. It's also useful if you do press the brakes and you see it activate, but when you release the brakes, if you're still getting a signal, you know that something down here is hanging up. The Coach Link has a unique feature on it that will cause this chime if the brakes stay applied for too long. So having that real-time feedback just helps ensure that you're going to be able to get to your destination safely and not be potentially driving your vehicle in a state that's going to be damaging it as you're pulling it down the road. So I'm going to jump into the motorhome now, and I'm going to hit the brakes in the motorhome, and you should see it activate here in our vehicle. And with your system, you also get a breakaway switch that's located here at the front. And what this does is, in the event you have a catastrophic disconnect between your vehicle and your motorhome, the tether here that's located between the motorhome and the vehicle will pull the pin out, which will activate the braking system, applying the brakes to help your vehicle come to a safe stop. We'll begin our installation here at the front of the vehicle by mounting all of our major components. You might notice that the fascia is missing here at the front, because we just got done putting the base plate on. And before you reinstall your base plate and components, before you reinstall your fascia after getting your base plate on, I highly recommend you take a break at that moment and do your diode wiring, your supplemental braking system, pretty much the rest of your flat tow components. It's a lot easier to install those and route all your wiring while you get this stuff removed. So that's exactly what we did. We'll be putting all that back together once we finish everything here. So we're going to start with the main unit here that we decided to mount on top of the fuse box cover over here. And here you can see our unit. It's just sitting right on top of the fuse box cover. We mounted it using cable ties through the 4 holes that's in the unit. Mounting it on here still allows us to remove our cover. We can still access the release tabs and lift this off of here, so that way if you need to get to your fuses, we can still do that. You can see here where we had drilled our holes. I drilled them both through the top and also through the sides on each one, and that way I was able to just secure it right to this. I do got some silicone here. We are going to take this and we're going to make sure we squirt it into those holes to seal this up. We don't want any moisture getting into our fuse compartment here. So now that we've got this guy mounted up, we can go ahead and head to the front. I'm just going to snap this back on there, and then we're going to head right up to the front where our base plate is. We've got some parts up there in the front as well. The main part here at the front is our breakaway switch. This mounting location here does vary a little bit depending on the base plate that you chose. If you chose a Roadmaster base plate like this, you can see it comes with a tab that's welded onto the base plate, and that is a mounting location that was provided by the base plate. Some manufacturers don't provide a mounting location for the base plate, in which case you'd have to get creative and figure out a way to mount it. We do have a lot of different no-drill brackets and stuff that you can buy here at eTrailer, so you can try to piece those together, or you can use some scrap metal at home to do so. I would usually recommend, though, when you're looking for a base plate, I really like the Roadmaster ones because they always give you mounting, not always, but most of the time, you're going to get a mounting location for your electrical components, so it just really simplifies your job. I also find that these install easier than the other competitors as well, and they just, in my opinion, seem to be the best of the options. But yeah, we got that mounted there, and then we'll head inside for our next component. So here we are inside on the driver's side. This is the brake pedal right here, and this is the activating cylinder that comes in the kit. This mounts onto the brake pedal. You can see here we just used the 2 sheets of metal that's on the cylinder here. Just take off one of them and then place your cylinder over your pedal with the bolts straddling the arm here. You can then slide your plate back on and then use the nuts to secure it. You use a 3/8 socket to tighten these down, and when I tighten these down, I don't even use a ratchet or anything. I use just the socket in my hand and tighten it down, because you don't want to over tighten this. You can bend this, and if you bend the bracket, it doesn't clamp properly. So if you just tighten it by hand, you shouldn't be able to bend it. You shouldn't be able to be that strong by just hand, but you should be able to get it nice and secure to where it's not going to go anywhere. And that thing's on there very secure. If we look at the back of the cylinder, there's a cable that comes out the back of it here. And that cable needs to tether to our firewall, so that way we've got an anchor point, so that way when it activates, it'll pull our pedal towards the firewall. Now, unfortunately for us, this positioning here of our arm on our pedal is right where we got this opening where our steering shaft goes down. But luckily, Roadmaster does provide this little plate in our kit here, and we were able to use this plate to kind of extend a mounting location over for us, because we need our cable to be in a straight line coming out of our cylinder, so that way it doesn't rub on the cylinder when it pulls. So there's a stud located right there. You can take the plate that comes in the kit, slide one of the open holes in the plate over the stud, and then I did grab a M6x1 nut and a washer, and I put that on there to secure that. Then I use one of the self-tapping screws that come in the kit to run it into the sheet metal there to secure it even further. And then the last hole on the plate, we attach the anchor here that's on the cylinder. It comes like on the cylinder. Just got this cable that kind of slides through it. We slid our nut through the back side of the plate going forward through our anchor, and then secured it with another nut. And there's also a lock washer that I put on there behind the nut to make sure it can't come off. This is all M6 hardware here that we provided ourselves to secure this, just an M6 bolt with an M6x1 nut as well. That way it kind of all matches. And on top of our anchor, this is the top of it right here, or you can angle this any way you want, but this is we happen to place that at the top. There's a set screw right there, and you'll use a 5/32 Allen to tighten down this set screw. After you mount the anchor onto the plate, we'll want to pull the cable until we remove the majority of the slack from our pedal here, and then we'll tighten down that set screw. And I like to tighten it down until it's about flush with the top. That's going to ensure that it's tight enough to hold our cable, but not overly tight that it's going to damage it to where it can snap. We want to make sure we got just a little bit of play. You can kind of hear the little click. It's just a little tiny bit of play, and that's exactly what we're looking for. So if we have a little bit of play here, we know that that means our cable is not putting pressure on our pedal. We're not pulling it and depressing the pedal. We've got nice free flow on our pedal there. So that's exactly what we're looking for there. And then you can just put your carpet back up to hide that. I did have to cut a little bit of the insulation out too. You'll see that around the metal plate there. Just a little bit of that insulation that I did have to cut out of there because you want it to be flat against the metal. So now that we've got this guy mounted up here, it's time to start connecting everything together. And we can go ahead and just do that right here. We'll just start right here at the cylinder. So here at the cylinder, you've got a couple of different things that we need to connect to it. You've got your airline here, that goes in, and this needs to get routed outside to connect to the box that we mounted on the fuse compartment. And then you've got your reed switch here. And the reed switch, whenever this cylinder activates, it'll move the reed switch away, and it will complete the circuit, which will send our signal out. The kit that we're using today is the Coach Link, so it's going to send out a wireless signal to our motorhome to a receiver inside. But the other option you can get is just the LED version, and it hooks up basically the same. It's just not going to send a signal to a remote inside your motorhome. It's going to light up an LED on your mirror. Either way, we just need to apply power to this wire, and then the other side of this wire is going to activate the other devices. They did recently change this cylinder, so there is a small chance that you're going to receive an old stock one. You might get an old stock one, or maybe you're working on one that you got used or something. The old style was a 3-wire, so these new ones are only a 2-wire. So just keep that in mind. It has updated over time to become a 2-wire, which is a lot easier to hook up than the 3-wire. So our wires here, we'll just start by routing. They both are wire and our airline hose that goes up, and then we just kind of run them across the bottom of the panel. It'll hit the carpet over here, and then it goes down. And then we can pull up our carpet here to see where everything goes. You can see the airline hose goes down. Now our black wires, actually we stop and take a break right here in the corner, and we hook it to the Coach Link box. And it's actually located just right up here. I just stuck the Coach Link box right on top of the panel. You get some hook and loop fasteners in your kit with some double-sided adhesive, so I just stuck it on there and then stuck the box in. I'm gonna pull the wiring down. We haven't secured it with cable ties yet, so we could see it. So here's the wiring for our Coach Link. The Coach Link is just a small box. It's got like an Ethernet gray cord coming out of it. It's not Ethernet though, it is just 2 wires inside of there. You'll have a black and a red, and then those black and red have butt connectors on them that are pre-crimped. So when you get it, you'll see that the red and the black are going to be pre-crimped, and then they connect to a red and a white. So the red goes to the red, black goes to the white, and that's exactly how you're going to get it. When you pull it out of your kit, it's going to have this white wire already crimped on it and this red wire already crimped on it. We're going to take the red wire here that's coming off the Coach Link box up there, and we're going to attach it to the blue wire coming out of our reed switch harness. So we just took a butt connector out of the kit and we crimped those together to make that connection there. So you can see blue there, red on this side. The white wire coming out of our box needs to go to ground. So we just used the factory ground that was here. We did attach a ring terminal to the white wire, and then just secured it right there. You'll get a ring terminal in your kit that you can use to attach to the white wire. Now our reed switch here does have another wire coming out of it. So there's the reed switch wiring. You got the blue wire that's connected to the red. You also have kind of a violet, maybe even brown colored wire. It's kind of a strange color. It's kind of like a violet brown, maybe even tannish a little bit. It's kind of like a faded purple. That one will connect to a power source. And what we did in your kit, you do get some excess brown wire here, and we get our power source from in the engine compartment. So we just take that violet colored wire here, that you see right there. We use a butt connector and connect it to the excess brown wire that we get in our kit. Our brown wire and our airline hose are both gonna go ahead and make a journey towards the outside. They run down the side here and underneath the carpet to a grommet located here. Now to get under the carpet, we do got a couple of trim panels we had to pull up. We'll start with this one here. This is the one that was located right here. Just pull up on this panel. It's just got a couple of clips here that'll pop out, and they're in these little 2 locations there. So you just kind of start right here in front of the seat. You can pop this piece up and then move that out of the way. And then next, you're probably going to want to take this piece off here, but we actually cannot take this piece off until we remove this piece. This is just like this piece down there. It's just got some push pins. It's located in this location here. So you can I just used a trim panel tool and just kind of stuck it in there and just popped this piece out, and we can set that piece aside. And now you can take this piece off. This piece doesn't just pull off though. Your hood release is part of that, and it sits in there just like this. Here's your little door thing, you'll see it in there. It's a lot easier to actually see this with it disassembled like this, because if you're looking at this piece when it's installed on here, if through the opening, it's going to look a little bit like this. And you don't really see any way to remove it. That's because the removal piece is this little clip right here. So what I found the easiest way to remove that is just kind of, while this piece is sitting down there, pull your handle up as far as it'll go, and there's going to be a small gap between these two pieces. After you pull the handle, you should be able to take a little hook device and hook into any of these little loops that you see there, and just pull that piece straight down with your little clip, with your little hook. That'll pull this clip off of there, and then this handle will just slide off. Once you slide it off, you can push the clip back into place. I just slid the clip on here. If you look at the bottom, there's a small little groove in it. You need to make sure that the clip slides into that groove just like you see there. And then here's the other side. You can see the two round edges. This way, when we go to put this back together, this will just slip in place and the clip will spread and snap itself back on. So that's how you remove that guy. That one there is a little bit more complicated. It's really difficult to show the actual removal of it because you kind of need to get your whole body in here to be able to pull that handle and pull down. It's almost impossible to get a camera in there to see that. So that's how you remove that piece. That's how we were able to get under the carpet. We used a 1/2-inch drill bit to drill that hole through the grommet, and then just poked our airline and our brown wire down through that hole. So now we'll go ahead and get that wire routed up to the engine compartment. All right, and here we can see where our wires are coming out. We got our brown wire and we got our airline there. Those we just route here, and we followed our diode wiring, the same path that we used when we routed that. And it just kind of goes up here, and then it goes into our engine compartment. The way we routed our wires here to do that is actually we used the airline hose that comes in our kit. I actually didn't start at the cylinder there and route my airline that direction. I actually started up top and I poked my airline hose down this way and I routed it up. And I taped my brown wire here to my fish wire here, my airline hose, just because this hose doesn't want to bunch up like the wire does. It was a lot easier for me to go from up top, push this down, and then I just came under here after I pushed it down here and I kind of fed it through this opening. This way it'll kind of protect it from stuff on the road. And then we were able to push it up into there. While we're down here, we're gonna grab that silicone once again. We're gonna make sure we fill this up. We don't want any leaks coming in here. All right, so this is where I had routed that airline tubing. Again, I pushed it down from the top. I went straight down here. This is where it goes down. And then again, we routed it inside and got it connected in there. The rest of it here, we route across. And then I make a turn here. We use some cable ties to secure it there. And then this is going to plug into the air out labeled here on the operating unit. So I had to cut the airline. It is important you cut the airline with the appropriate tool. You can get airline cutters, tubing cutters, here at trailer. And the reason why this is important, if we look at it here, you got kind of like a razor blade device on one side, and then the other side is just a nice kind of a V-shaped surface, or you want a flat surface. One of the two is a good option. The main thing is that the razor blade's very sharp, and this isn't going to deform the line when we cut it. If you use like a pair of side cutters or snips or something, it'll actually squish the line before it cuts it, and then you get kind of a notched cut. We need a nice, clean, square cut. So if we use a tool like this, it's going to cut it perpendicular to the line. It's going to cut it nice and smooth and clean. We can see we've got clean edges all the way across. It's still round. We didn't deform it, and it's not cut at any kind of an angle. It's perpendicular. That's what's going to seal properly inside of these quick connects. After you cut it like that, you just push it in. That's all you got to do. I usually like to give it a little pull after I push it in to make sure that it's locked into place like that. It's not coming out of there, so we know that that's good to go. We're not going to use the rest of our airline and route that towards the front. So just take what you got left, poke it in the air in. I just kind of wrapped it around here just to have a natural curve to the airline because we don't want to kink our airline. So it gives it a little natural curve, and then it just routes down the side here. We poke it through the opening here, and then it routes down here in the front. We just kind of coiled it up. The reason why it's just coiled up here, we do have another connector we're going to mount at the front, and that's going to be the connector that you'll connect your air hose between your vehicle and your motorhome. But that piece we're going to wait until we have our fascia reinstalled, and we're going to show you that. We'll show you how we mounted it up there. But just kind of let your hose hang out there until you get your fascia reinstalled. Because if you put it on now, you won't be able to reinstall the fascia without cutting a big hole around the device you just installed. We can get the fascia on with minimizing how much we need to cut and then just install it on the outside afterwards. Makes things look nicer that way. So let's get back to that brown wire that we had routed out here. So just right next to the airline tube that went down, here's the brown wire. Instead of going across the back, I did come forward just a little bit, cable tie it there, and then we head over. And here I have a butt connector. What I did here is, this is actually more of the brown wire. I continued the brown wire on down this direction because I was looking to see kind of how much of length of brown wire I had left, because this brown wire needs to connect to both our battery source here, and we need to connect battery power to our breakaway switch. And if we can use this brown wire that comes in the kit, that's great, because that way we don't need to purchase any additional wire. This is the extra wire we get in the kit. So it did make its way down the side here, and it was just long enough here. You can see that I was able to connect it to the orange wire. This orange wire, as well as this black wire here, are the two wires that are coming off the breakaway switch that we mounted in the front, and they're routed just down the hitch, and they just follow the airline tubing. That same path we just looked at, they follow that same path. So the brown wire that you see here is connected to the orange. We did use heat shrink butt connectors to do this, to seal it up here on the outside. Now the reason why we have this butt connector here in the middle is because we need to branch our power source here off to those two pieces. We need to have one go inside for our monitor system, and then we need to have one go to the breakaway switch up there. So the other side here I haven't connected anything to yet. We're going to use the fuse harness that comes in our kit, and we'll connect that to our power source here. We can go ahead and take care of that right now. All right, so here we've got our fuse harness that comes in our kit. When you get it, it's going to come looped just like this. We can go ahead and cut it to expose the two ends here. We'll strip back each end. And on one end of our fuse harness here, we'll connect to that butt connector that we just looked at. And on the other end of our fuse harness here, we're going to connect a ring terminal in your kit. All right. And then over here on the other side, we'll crimp it into that butt connector going to those brown wires. All right, so we've got our connections made there. Next, we're gonna hook this to our battery post there. So now we're just gonna remove this with a 13mm socket. Just take that nut off of there. We'll take our wire here, and it kind of looks like we're best maybe going in like this, because we're just looking to see which way is going to let our wire kind of pass through the easiest. And it seems like if we just go out here and down, that's probably going to be the cleanest path for our wire to follow. And then we'll just snug this back down. Now that we've got our wire attached here, before we close the lid, you'll see here these little tangs going down. They're designed to kind of press on the top of these flat surfaces, but we've got this piece here now. So this tang here, the one that it lines up with, that's going to be that one. We're going to remove that. We're just going to take our crimpers here, and you should be able to just kind of grab this and twist it off of there. And then I'm just going to check our fit. Looks pretty good. And look at that, we were able to close it back up. We've got our harness here sticking out. Now, our fuse is not installed. I actually recommend leaving the fuse uninstalled until we finish installing the rest of our components. That way there's no chance of any shorts occurring. We can also grab our heat gun and shrink down our butt connector. All right, so we've got the wiring and stuff inside all routed out. All that stuff's hooked up. We do got a couple of things left out here though. On our operating unit here, you've got two black wires that are coming out of it. One of those black wires, it doesn't matter which one, pick any one you want. Put a ring terminal on it, and we're gonna attach that to ground. And there's a ground stud located right here, so our wire just routes over to there and we attach it to there. The other black wire coming out of our unit needs to attach to the other wire from our breakaway switch. So we had a portion of the brown wire coming from power here connecting to the orange wire. Well, the other wire on the breakaway switch is a black wire, and that's going to connect to the other black wire off of our box, and that just runs down here, and we made our connection right there. All right, next we're going to hook up our vacuum line to our unit here. You can see it's labeled vacuum here. You're going to get some vacuum line in your kit. That's what this is. We cut off about maybe a 2-inch portion here, 2.5, 3 inches, somewhere in there. And we'll slide that onto the barbed fitting right here where it's labeled vacuum. From there, we're going to slide in one of the check valves that comes in your kit. And the check valve is different colors on each side. One side's going to be black, the other side's kind of a clear, you might even call it maybe like a tint of a green color. We want the black side to face towards the unit here, and then that clear side to continue on. We'll then take some of the airline or the vacuum line that comes in our kit, and we're going to route it down and over behind our brake fluid reservoir here until we get to this location over here. Right over there is where your factory vacuum brake booster line is located, and that's what this is here. You see this little connector up top? That is the brake booster line coming out of there. It comes out of here, and it kind of just does like a little curly cue, and once it comes back, it routes down here. And this kind of fabric protector is on the factory line. So we cut the factory line here, and we cut it back here a little bit, kind of cutting out that kind of 90-degree portion. And we then were able to attach our components to it. So in your kit, you're going to get a T, and we need to T that line in that we ran from our operating unit into this factory one. Now the problem here is that the vacuum line that comes in the kit is actually a smaller diameter on the inside than what the outside diameter of the factory line is here. This factory line is closer to a 1/2 inch in diameter. So you can see here we have some thicker vacuum line that we had to source ourselves. And then we slid over here. The inside diameter, again, is about a 1/2 inch. And then we use the hose clamp that does come in the kit, and we crimped that on there. Also included in your kit are some adapters, and you do get adapters that go from the thicker line down to the smaller line that comes in the kit. So we plugged the adapter into the thicker piece of line that we had installed here, and then we cut another about 2-inch, 2.5-inch section here and poked that in the other side. From there, we put our check valve in with the black side facing towards the engine. This line here with the fabric on it is continuing on down to the intake manifold down here. And then the clear side will just continue on back towards the brake vacuum booster. We come out of the other side with another about 2-inch section of line, and that's where we put our T-fitting that comes in our kit. The line going off that direction behind the reservoir, again, is the coming from our unit. On the other side of our T, we have another 2-inch section of line where we go into another one of the adapters, and then from the adapter we go into that larger inside diameter line and poke that back onto the factory line here. And then we again secure it using the hose clamp that comes in our kit. All right, so at this point we've pretty much got almost the entirety of our vehicle hooked up. We've got all of our electrical connections completed, so now we can safely insert our fuse. We know we don't have to worry about any shorts, things like that. All right, we got that inserted there. All right, so here we are again at the front of the vehicle. We've got our fascia reinstalled, got all that stuff taken care of. We pulled our diode wiring through. And we also, if you have any supplemental braking system or any other components that you may need to hook up, you can want to pull those through as well. So our attachment point on our base plate is here, so that's where we're going to mount our connector. Here's the connector that comes with your diode wiring. What we're going to do, this bracket also comes with it. This is typically for mounting the connector. If you don't have a base plate that's got attachments like that, you can use this bracket to attach it somewhere. But this makes a great bracket to use for mounting up other components. Our supplemental braking system requires us to have an air connection here at the front, so we can use this bracket along with this bracket by just sliding our pieces together like that to install it. We've got our wiring attached. Everything looks good there. If you want to, you can go ahead and finish up your braking system here. We're going to go ahead and plug this in while we're down here. kind of trim this to length and we'll route it over there. Tried to go a little bit longer because we're trying to hide it if we can. All right, now that we've got our connector fully mounted up, we can plug this into the back of our motorhome to test it out. So I'm going to jump into the motorhome now, and I'm going to hit the brakes in the motorhome, and you should see it activate here in our vehicle. And that completes our installation of Demco's Air Force One supplemental braking system on our 2020 Buick Envision.